Welcome to Mindfully Integrative Podcast with your host, Dr. Damaris G. Mindfully Integrative is a podcast discussing ways toward mindfully incorporating integrative health into our lives. This podcast will have informative resources, fun topics, interviews, and discussions relatable for today with a true mindful perspective in a mind-body, holistic life approach.
So let's talk about GLP-1s and intermittent fasting. So what is intermittent fasting? What is kind of the research of it, and what does it do for the body? So first, it helps with metabolic management, particularly with weight loss and glucose regulation. Its recent research has explored the approach and sense of combining it with potential impacts with medication or trying to naturally boost it. So GLP-1, we've said numerous times, it is an incretin hormone and enhances insulin secretion, glucagon, and helps lowering your appetite suppression. But how does it do this? In reviews, it shows that, depending upon the size of your meals, the amount of fasting, when are you eating, post-prandial food eating, the factors of what you're eating, like is it a macro or is it just like not quality foods? Or are you eating more for your gut microbiome? Intermittent fasting combined with GLP-1 will benefit you by helping with your weight loss. Now, how does it do that? It is used in showing to release more of the growth hormone. It helps impact your muscle mass so that keeps it more lean. It's improving your glycemic index in your body. Excuse me. That is thinking of it like it controls your blood glucose, reduces your body weight, and helps with overall performance. How to do this for each person, it's personalized, right? So not everybody is a 12-hour, a 16 and 8, and I'll go into each one of these. But it depends upon the person. You may need medication plus supervision. You may just need a conversation. Some people will do very well on intermittent fasting. My household as a whole, we always do 12 hours. Maybe one day of the week, we will go a little bit more, like 14 or 16. And once a month, we will do it like a 24-hour, where we'll just have water. But for the most part, most of the time we are 12 hours and 14 hours. And then my husband will sometimes do 16s. I don't do as many of the 16s because hormonally for females, it's not as beneficial. So in turn, let's talk about what types of intermittent fasting there are. So it's helping with your metabolic reset, kind of the dysregulation. So there's the very common one people will do is 16 and 8. That means in a 24-hour period, you have 16 hours that you eat and 16 hours that you do not eat and 8 hours that you will eat. So you're fasting for 16 and you're eating for 8. So let's say from 12 to 8 p.m. or like 11 to 6, you're eating. And then the rest of that other time, you're intermittent fasting. Benefits of this, and all of them I will tell you, most of them have similar benefits with just a couple of little changes. So in this one, it benefits your GLP-1 secretion post-meal. So that's post-prandial meal, better appetite control and better like feeling full, improves insulin sensitivity, and encourages fat burning. So your body doesn't have as much food there, so it will fat burn more. With hormone regulations there, sometimes it can actually hold it in, or if you have a cortisol stress issues, it could hold in if you have too much of it, but you don't want to do a 16-8 every day. Recommended maybe like for women twice a week, and for men, I think they can do up to about 4. So 4 days they can do a 16, 3 days they can do 14 and under, 14 or 12 or 10s. And then once a month, a 24-hour. Some people will do once a week, 24 hours. I do not do that, but there has been some research and benefits of that. Then the next method is 14 and 10. So we're using a 24-hour clock, and 14 hours you're not eating, 10 hours you're eating. So think of this more beginner friendly. I actually think a 12-hour one is more doable for most people. a 12 to 10 hour one, but 14 hours is beginner friendly, pretty manageable. So there's a 10-hour window that you can eat. So think like 10 a.m. you can eat and you stop eating by 8. I recommend like a 9 a.m. to like a 7, window. If you're going to go that route, I'm anywhere between, mine ranges 12 to 14 hours with my fasting. I always do 12. Sometimes we'll reach between 14 and 16, depending upon my mood and feeling. But in those times, I really have to make sure that I have a protein-rich beginning meal. And if I don't, I'm going to crash. No matter what, if I don't have that, you will also. Now, how does this 14 method work? Of course, again, it will help increase your GLP-1. You're less restricted, so you may be able to maintain this a little bit longer. So some people are able to maintain 14 hours. I am more about sustainability and long term. So what can you do when you're 20, and what can you also do at 80? 12-hour fasting, 14-hour fasting is actually more sustainable than 16 and 24 hours. So I look at it like, what can you do in your age bracket? So 20, 30, 40, 60, 80, your years, that can be sustainable for you in longevity for your metabolic health, because each time your body's going to change, and each 10 years or so it will change. So what is beneficial for you? Mostly 14 hours or a 12 hours are the easiest and sustainable, but it depends upon how it is for you. And again, yes, it'll help with metabolic, digestion, and health. Beginners, usually this is the best one. Women last on this a little bit better because of the hormones, and it's transitions. It's like the window for this is a little bit easier for people. They're able to sustain this. Now with 12-12 is the circadian one. I spoke briefly about this, about you can think of it like in the light hours you're eating, and in the night hours you're not. So like 8 a.m. you start eating, 8 p.m. you stop eating. This one aligns with usually the natural circadian cycle. You just have to be more mindful about what you're eating, because just because you have a 12-hour window and you just keep eating, that's not, meal restricting. If you're eating in excess, then you're still going to eat as many calories as you want. So sometimes the 12-12 is still helpful, but in that 12-hour period, still, what are you putting into your body? What food are you putting into your body? And it does help with a gentle metabolic boost. It doesn't do as much of a boost until you're at 14 to 16 hours. Usually about that 14 hours, you'll get a really good fat burning around that time. But I will say for myself, 12 hours and sustain with more protein, and try to boost to 14 if I can. There's some that do a 5-2. This is the normal days, 5 days, they restrict their calories. And 2 of those days, so normal eating Monday through Friday, and then calorie restriction Saturday and Sunday. So what that means is they have on their normal days, they restrict their calories 500 or 600. I'm not a fan of this one at all. I feel that, if you can sustain it weekly, that would be the best thing, because then what happens is people think that weekends are like, I can eat whatever I want. And actually those weekend calories can equate to so many, not just calories, the amount of food that they eat because they're going out or drinking and such. Then it just like, you've just packed on those pounds for the next week. So I'm not as much of a fan of it, but I know that people do like it. It is a little bit more flexible. People are like, oh, it can be sustainable. You can have a meal that you should have a cheat meal. You should have meals that are enjoyable, but it's still understanding and having a good relationship with food and how it is for your body and how it will sustain you, and, think of it as fuel and enjoying, but still managing so that you can have the best metabolic health for you. So, this is a behavioral, this is modification, and understanding what that is, but not obsessive. OMAD, or 1 meal a day. There are some individuals that like to do that. It's eating 1 large meal for the day in a 1 to 2 hour window. Examples of this is like, you may just eat a lunch and that's it. You might have water and coffee and teas, and the rest of the time you're not eating. This is very sustainable for some individuals. It maximizes GLP-1 pretty significantly, drastically lowers your insulin. And there's a lot of cellular repair when you only eat 1 meal a day. due to the extended fasting. Good and bad to this is it's not for everybody. It's not sustainable for long term. It's not ideal for people that are trying to get muscle maintenance and proper protein intake, and not for older individuals or too young. So this is kind of like that in between where you're trying to kind of sustain, but this is for somebody that's already been experienced and they're very well off and when their metabolic reset, and they have a little bit more flexibility. And when they're doing that one meal, it is like packed, nutrient packed. And it's just not like, burger and fries. Okay. So that doesn't, that won't do it. Your body needs a little bit more nutrients and supplements. Individuals do alternate fasting. This is a little bit more extreme. This has to do with when you're alternating between fasting, low calorie and high calorie. So you may eat normal one day, regular meals, and Tuesday you might eat normal. Monday you're going to eat one meal. Wednesday you're going to fast. So you're just alternating each day. Now, for an individual that's not used to fasting or changing their meal intakes, I wouldn't recommend this at all. But, I'm just giving you ideas of what is available for individuals. This significantly helps with GLP-1. Think about your body has to break down what it has. So if it doesn't have as much nutrients that it's getting in it, then it obviously is going to be breaking down the things in its body. But you still have to have good metabolic flexibility, which means that it's able to use what's in its body to break down. So yes, the benefit of fasting is to help with lower inflammation, help with cellular repair, help with your lowering the amount of fat storage and breaking down the excess. But, it can be challenging if, you don't take it one day at a time. So that's why I usually say, let's start off slower, doing like a 10 or 12 hour, then do restrictions on what foods you want to eat. And, picking the quality things, then you can kind of up the ante if you need to, in the sense of trying to do a little bit more of a reset. But think a bit more on sustainability. And if you want more metabolic reset, yes, you can do a one meal a day at some point when you feel like you're at a good understanding of where your body is and designing that to where you need to be. It needs to be personal. So it's not one size fits all. But if you have any additional questions on that, I would be glad to help answer that. And I will give you more optimal diet recommendations and things of that nature. Any other questions? I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you for listening to the Mindfully Integrative Show with Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, family nurse practitioner. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnose, or treat. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your healthcare routine. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you enjoyed our show, please support us by leaving a mindful review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite streaming platform. Interested in being a guest or more information? Email us at info@mindfullyintegrative.com. For resources mentioned in the show, visit our website at www.mindfullyintegrative.com. You can also connect mindfully with Dr. Damaris on her social media links found on the site. May your strength and peace guide you to find a mindful way every day. Namaste.